everyone. Welcome to the Grant County Public Safety Operations Center Policy Board. Quite a mouthful. Well, welcome. We do have to hold up for just a little bit on approving the last minutes when Haley gets here, but we get started with the report from Director Hicks.
Good afternoon. We have had one of our trainees resign her position within the center for a couple of reasons. She was struggling with some aspects of the training. She also is getting married later this year and decided to move to Ohio with her boyfriend. So we now have 3 openings in the dispatch center. We have one dispatcher who was on the last leg of training and should be cleared hopefully by the end of the month. We have one other dispatcher that is will be coming to day shift in May to complete her EMS training, and then we have one other that still has to finish county law and city law, and then she'll be good to go. Hopefully we can start the hiring process first part of May and get the other 3 positions filled. We've also have had a person interested in part-time come in. They were in the last 3 days and have thoroughly enjoyed their time in the room. So I'm working with Andy to get her hired and start her process as well. She does have prior dispatch experience. She actually retired from the sheriff's department and has done quite a bit of training of the dispatchers that we currently have. So she should be a good fit.
Okay. Questions for Director Hicks? We will move on to the tower project. I know the tech committee met this afternoon or at noon today. Date from there.
The crane has to have pretty much really good weather. So the wind here lately has been hindering them. They tried to do a lower section on one of the towers the other day or a couple days ago, and they couldn't even do the lower section with like 15 to 20 mile an hour winds. So they really have to worry about the winds there. So it's probably been pushed off a little bit. He's hoping next week, as long as the weather cooperates, they'll get those starting to stack. Buildings are all, some of the concerns we had with the buildings and things were taken care of or are being taken care of. We do still need to, on the templates, we need to do some MOUs with surrounding counties, which I believe you're working on, maybe? Okay. For contacts there. We're hashing out the templates, getting those pinned down, because we are already have been contacted by some agencies that are wanting to buy some radios, and with the ordinance and with the timeline that we have to have in order to have everybody go to phase 2, they're wanting to get new radios, and we need to get those templates to them so they can get their radios that they want programmed correctly. So that's pretty much about it, unless you have anything else, Kevin.
Not really. They are going to be bringing in a commercial crane from Ohio, I believe, and they are planning on stacking all 3 towers over a 2-day period.
So what other work needs to happen on the templates to have those, where are we at on that?
We tentatively went over pretty well. No, we did go over all of them. What we're making sure of is with the templates, we're going to let each agency decide what they want in the first 3 or however many templates, however many zones they need for the first part of it for the new system. The one thing that we wanted to make sure of was on the end of the templates that we still have the state system in there, and all the current talk groups that we have now are available in those last three zones. Because what you're gonna do is they'll touch the radios, and as an agency gets these radios, until we get our system up and running, you'll be running off those last few zones. And then when we switch over to our talk groups, then you go back to your existing new zones. So we have to be able to have both systems in there all at once in order to do the transition.
And we'll still use the state system as our backup.
Right.
Okay.
And those will still be available. If you are on a talk group or want to use a talk group frequently, that's up to you as far as using it as an old system. Some of the encrypted channels, things like that.
So there's nothing to prevent an agency from buying radios now. They just need to work through the process of knowing that programming
Right.
is going to change or something.
Which,
Reason being is because they're going to have the radios touched twice. If they buy new radios now and they don't have which we actually don't have the new system stuff because they have to have certain certain frequencies, things like that, pinned down before they get the new system put in. So if they buy a new radio now, they certainly can, but it has to meet certain requirements to get on our new system, and then it'll have to be reprogrammed for the new system later.
Okay.
which our radio requirements mirror those of IPSC.
Right.
Because they are our backup, the new radios have to be able to be on both systems.
Okay. Think I'm clear. Any other questions? Radios for, any other questions for the tech committee? I guess technical questions. Okay. Oh, Chief, did you have anything for us?
Nope.
Great. I do need to back up too, and I apologize to Chief Daly, but welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Brad Daly will be representing the county fire department, so glad to have you aboard.
Thanks, appreciate it. Forward to serving.
All right, old business. So first item on the old business is the communications plan. So we have been working through that. The last time I think that was updated was 2015, somewhere in that neighborhood, 2011, I don't know. Anyway, it was overdue. And now is certainly the time we want to make sure we get that right. So that is a work in progress. However, we really cannot move much further, one without some help from other agencies. We need each agency's input, each discipline's input, I should say. So law enforcement, EMS, fire, on how some of that plan needs to be worded. Some of it we'll take care of from a legal aspect. However, the most important thing we need to get first is the ordinance. So I've talked to the commissioners, and we have sent, I believe I did send that to each of the board members, the proposed ordinance. And that has been cleared by the county's legal department as to the way they want that structured. What we requested was that basically the ordinance will state that the comm plan, the communications plan, is the governing document for communications in this county. And that will change from time to time, as we just spoke about. As we know, as the system comes up and gets more robust and we can add things, we'll do that through the comm plan. This board will make those recommendations. The commissioners still have the final say on any changes made to the comm plan. So we're not taking anything out of their hands. They still will have the final say on what goes on, but that's why they put this board in place, is to give them guidance, and so they appreciate all those efforts. So with that, we can act today, or if you want to take a little bit more time to digest it, we still have some time to digest the ordinance only. We'll only talk about the ordinance. The comm plan will come later. But we do need to get that moving at some point so that the commissioners can have a vote at a public meeting and put that ordinance into official play. Does that make sense? Questions on it? And I apologize, I don't have a copy of the new ordinance with me, but I did send it to everybody.
And it's only, what,
One page.
page and a half, yeah, pretty much one page. My thought is we probably ought to try to vote on it today, if at all possible, because we do have a timeline on there. And it has to do with the programming of the radios up July 1st of 2025. Originally, the first date was a little aggressive, and we brought it out that far because giving towns and entities and things like that to help with their budgets. So unless people have a different opinion, I think it really should be voted on today, so we can get it to the commissioners and make it pass it on through.
If you want, I can put the ordinance up if you guys want to glance over it.
Yeah, if you could, I had every intention of bringing a hard copy, and so much for good intentions. And just, I guess for sake of conversation,
Bobby, do you know a reason to take more time on that ordinance? The reason I say that, I know you're up against the timeline, but you know, they've got to advertise it. They've got to advertise the public meeting. You got to have the public meeting, you know, through its process. So it's not going to be an overnight thing.
yeah. Now, obviously, the sooner the better, in my opinion, but there again, there's not, I don't want to be hasty. I want to make sure we've done our due diligence and we have it right. It's an important link in us moving forward. Is that the last one I sent you?
This one, it was sent,
Scroll to the very beginning, I can tell you.
The one from 323,
Yes, that is it.
323.
And I know because legal department changed the headings for me to tell. So what we did, we used a template from other counties, and this is not out of the realm of what other folks have done. And we know that there was concern, at least I've heard some concern from some folks that we were limiting radios and vendors. That's not the case, honestly. We want to start with two, and we know that there will be issues as we launch the new system and we go. So rather than have 6 vendors point fingers at each other, we're down to 2, and we'll get it right. And then as we feel comfortable with that, we can expand, and there's no intention of limiting anybody that wants to participate in that. However, they'll participate under the rules set forth by this body.
And from a technical aspect, that's what typically is done with all systems. IPSC did it to the state system. They had a certain amount of vendors that were only allowed on there at first. It took them several years to then allow other vendors on there. So we're not doing anything new that has not been done before.
Questions or concerns about the proposed ordinance?
Bobby, are you looking for a vote now?
I'd be happy to entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Wayne Ashcraft makes a motion, and it's a toss-up between Paul and Scott. Paul, David made the second to that motion. Any other comment? Comment from the public, online or in person? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion is passed, and we will proceed to take that to the commissioners and get that into play. And then the next thing we'll do is we'll start work on the comp plan. I basically broke that into some different sections, and I'll send that out to each of the disciplines and have you guys work on that, and we'll, in the next month, hopefully. If it takes 2, that's fine. I think we're still too much put us in a bind. We'll shoot for next month if we can. If we can't, I would rather get it right and slow than quick and.
When you find out what the ordinance number's actually gonna be, will you let me know what that is?
Yes, and that won't be until the commissioners vote that. Yes, absolutely. Okay. That's all the old business I personally have. Anybody else? All right. New business. One bit of new business I have is we did have, Kevin and I met with Marion's building inspector last Friday, and they did an inspection on the hut at the Marion site. The other sites did not require an inspection because they're in the county, but the city did buy off on that, so we have an approved inspection report here. Someone did mention mutual aid agreement. Is that you? There again, part of the comp plan, which would be in addition to, but we already have an existing mutual aid communications plan with the district. So that helps us in part of our situation. However, Miami County, Wells County, Wabash County, I think are the three that wouldn't fall under that, so we'll have to work with them individually or with District 3. It might be easier to do it as a district, just in the event something goofy happens. Again, appreciate any help that's offered. If you have suggestions how you want that to look, and I'll do the same thing. We'll send out I'll send out the template, what that looks like. Have you read through it and poke holes wherever holes need to be poked. Okay. Yep, go ahead.
I just wanted to say we recently got back our ISO rating for the city of Marion. We work in conjunction with the Water Department Communications. Several years ago, we were a 5, and it had been that way since the 70s. Got it down to a 4, and we're now at a 3. We'll be getting with Kevin on plans that we can even, I believe, get us to a 2, and that affects everybody, such as insurance rates.
So the
and
lower the
such.
number, the better off we are.
Correct. I'll get those results to you, Kevin, and it highlights areas where we can improve at. We've got them at our end, your end, and the water department as well. But with central dispatch going on, we were able to score a few more points than normal. So we're glad to see that. It took us over the hump. So be working with you on that.
Yeah, for the private citizen, that's a big deal monetarily, particularly commercial establishments. Their insurance rating is that affects them in a big way. So anytime we can lower a point, that's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
Good deal. Thanks. We did have, we plan to have bi-weekly meetings with Director Hicks, Director Ashcraft, myself, Chief Cole, and Dave Bard from Marion General, just to do a bi-weekly EMS operations review. We know there's been some issues. There's always going to be issues. And by us meeting bi-weekly, we hope to stay on top of that and work through them as they're minor. And
that's also a requirement of Courage Dispatch.
so, and probably should expand that out if we need to, law enforcement and fire and whoever else might have a vested
It's
interest.
my understanding that the state of Indiana is going to be enacting similar legislation for both police and fire as they have for emergency for EMS. My guess is we will be.
Just me personally, I've never had an issue with a law enforcement officer. Plan to keep it that way. Okay. Anything else new business wise?
The Cushing User Conference is coming up in June, middle of June, and I would like permission to travel out of state to attend that. It's 2 days. We'll be in Champaign, Illinois.
You need approval from us, or is that just the commissioner?
I need approval from you guys, and I need to get permission from the commissioners.
All right,
I'll
so,
make a motion.
motion has been made to accept the request to send, second by Scott. Any other comment? All in favor? Opposed? Have a nice trip.
I think it's because it's out of state. If it were within the state, there would be a problem with it because it's out of state. And side note, I should have stated earlier, I do have the 3 new dispatchers signed up for EMD training starting on Monday, and that will be hosted by Marion Health at their Gas City site.
And I almost forgot, I humbly apologize, but be sure and convey to the dispatchers, happy telecommunicators week. And, we
Absolutely.
appreciate everything they do. One of the TV news stations at Indianapolis did a story yesterday on dispatchers on the job and things that, it's, if you haven't ever sat in that room, it's amazing. All right. All I have on my list, anybody else? Yes, Paul?
Yeah, Mr. Texter, if I may have the opportunity. Saturday, April 9th was the monthly severe weather alert system testing. It just so happened that I was located at downtown Marion at that present time. When the test sirens were activated, I could hear those very well. But however, due to being at a scanner, it was not announced on the fire department frequency. So I took the liberty to call around the stations to ask if they had received it or not. Again, they had not received that. There was one station out of the 4 stations that even was aware that the test was conducted, and that being Station 5 because the siren is on their property. The other stations, they had no idea. They didn't even hear the sirens. So I know that was brought up at the last meeting as well, and so that can be brought up again and made sure that that is part of our monthly test and also when severe weather occurs.
It is part of the announcement for the severe weather on all the fire frequencies, but it will be added to this for the monthly test as well.
Yeah, I cleared the county test. I wasn't privy to the Marion frequency at the time, so yeah, absolutely.
And along with those, historically, and to my memory, ever since those towers were put in with the severe weather alert sirens, the dispatchers would call the fire stations and ask that they go to those specific locations. For instance, for Engine 6, they would go to Southeast School. Station 2 would go to, I believe, Lincoln Field. Station 4 would go over on Horton Street to just stand by and make sure that those sirens were functioning and operating as they're supposed to. And that is not happening as well. And so I guess the question is, who's doing that?
Ham radio operators are at each location now,
Okay.
checking those, seeing if they're working, so. Bobby likes that, I think, so they work in conjunction with each other in case of an emergency.
Yes, and it also tests their ability to respond, and they're required to do radio tests regularly too. So they combine that with the siren tests.
Excellent. Wasn't aware of that. So yeah, that's good to be working with them as well.
And I believe on the, last meeting or meeting before, something like that, when we talked about the testing of the sirens and testing of the warnings and things, we agreed to omit the Marion Fire and EMS from the all-call on that because of the daily tones that they get anyway, and the daily test, the 7 a.m. test that you guys have daily. I believe that was already had been talked about, leaving them out of that testing for the monthly testing due to that fact. But like I said, Kevin said, if we need to add that back in, we can do that. But that was why we didn't get it on the monthly test, or why Marion Fire didn't get it, and why EMS did not get it on the monthly test, because that was pretty much said that they get one every day.
See, I thought that we discussed that it wasn't a policy to do that. Right, Kevin, and that what we discussed last
For the
month?
severe weather,
Yeah.
if it's severe weather, yes, the county fire all call, EMS all call, and the Marion Fire all call, all 3 will get activated for severe weather.
But not for the
Not for
test.
the test, or not for the test,
Yeah,
because
that was the
we
last
test your all-call every morning. We're supposed to test your all-call every morning at 7 o'clock.
Yes.
And EMS, it gets used all the time anyway, so.
I guess that'd be an answer, would that be a question for him? Do you want to be included on the monthly test? Or, and also for EMS, Dwayne, you know, does EMS want to be included on the monthly test, or?
I think it's okay to notify our stations that the monthly test is going on and advise them of it.
Give you my 2 cents, I would rather everybody get the test. I mean, we test for a reason, and we have found, well, this last month, we had 2 failures we found because of that test, so, that's why we test, and we look for those, so. I'd be happy to have the EMS and everybody
Involved.
that can get it, gets it. And any feedback they want to provide, I welcome that to my office, because we do all of that, we track it. And I did reach out to Danny Robinson, so, and he was, I don't know, excited is the right word, but he was happy to get the information back, because, and actually one of the failures was a Marion, one of the Marion sirens, so. It's important, in days like tonight, it could very well be put in use. So make sure we got them right.
They had a failure on one of those. And in fact, I believe, kind of an after, or something that is coincidental to it, we were trying to figure out if either of you had owned one, or Marion had owned one, so that actually got hashed out because of this too. So,
Absolutely.
That was owned by Seabold Pool.
Yeah, so they're good things.
City of Marion owns it, they're happy to take responsibility for it. And actually, it works, so that's good.
I think Chief Haley found that out. If I recall.
That was a
Call
very
Danny.
easy, that was a very easy text message. That was not complicated.
It's all about communication, right, Chief?
That's right.
It's great when it works.
Well, and when it don't, we need to know. That's,
Exactly.
we
That's how you
fix it.
fix it.
Okay. Anything else for the good of the order? Bradley?
So far,
You come with a whole bunch of questions.
wait till next month.
Okay. All right. Anything from the public? Questions? All right. That's all I have. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Would you like to on your first
Sure.
official one?
I'll
your
make, yep,
first motion?
absolutely. I'll make a motion, that we adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We are recessed.
We got, not good.
Sure.
Sweet, that's good.
Absolutely.
Good job. Well done.
Oh, yeah.
The way my day's been, a break has been awfully nice.
I agree with that.
Mr. David.
How are you?
Hey.